The production assistant was holding a coffee cup and his hand was shaking. Clint Eastwood was standing directly in front of him, asking why the camera angle was wrong, and the PA couldn't answer because he hadn't set up the camera, he'd just brought the coffee. And now everyone on set was watching him fail to explain something he had nothing to do with. Johnny Cash saw it happen from 20 feet away, saw the PA's face go white, saw Eastwood waiting for an answer that wasn't coming, saw the 40 crew members pretending not to watch while watching everything. This was a film set in 1975. Eastwood was directing and it wasn't going well. Nothing had gone right all morning. Wrong light, skittish horses, late extras, and now Eastwood was asking questions to people who didn't have answers, and the tension was spreading like a stain. Cash had been there less than 30 minutes. Eastwood had invited him to visit, talk about a potential project. Cash had said yes because he was curious. Now he was seeing something that made his jaw tighten. The PA mumbled something about finding out and walked away too fast. Eastwood turned to the makeup artist who'd approached to ask about an actor's forehead shine. He told her the actor looked fine. She said there was shine. He said they were shooting a Western, not a fashion magazine, and walked away before she could respond. Cash watched her face, watched the way she went back to her station and started organizing brushes that were already organized. The cameraman called ready. Eastwood sat in his chair, called action. 40 seconds later, he stopped the take, told them to do it again, different angle. The cameraman asked what was wrong. Eastwood said everything. They did it again and again. On the fourth take, an actor stumbled over a word and Eastwood cut the scene, told him to get it right. The actor apologized. Eastwood said apologies don't fix bad takes. Cash set down his water bottle, started walking toward Eastwood. His boots made no sound on the dirt, but people noticed him moving, the way he was moving, the way his shoulders were set. Eastwood was talking to the cinematographer when Cash stopped next to them, close enough to be intrusive. The cinematographer saw Cash first, looked at him, then at Eastwood. Eastwood followed the look. "John, you need something?" "We need to talk," Cash said. His voice was quiet, but it carried. "Now." Eastwood's expression didn't change, but something in his posture shifted. "I'm in the middle of shooting." "I know." They stood there. 3 seconds. 4. The cinematographer found somewhere else to be. "What's this about?" Eastwood asked. "Not here." Eastwood looked at Cash's face, saw something there that made him nod once. He called out they were taking 10 and started walking toward the equipment trucks. Cash followed. Neither of them looked back, but the entire crew was watching. They stopped behind a truck, away from everyone. Eastwood turned and crossed his arms. "All right, what?" Cash didn't answer immediately, just looked at him. Let the silence build until it became uncomfortable. Then he spoke, and his voice was level, but there was steel underneath. "You're treating your crew like dirt." Eastwood's jaw tightened. "Excuse me? That PA? The makeup artist? The cameraman? You're taking your frustration out on people who are trying to do their jobs." "This is my set," Eastwood said. "I run it the way I need to run it." "By humiliating people who can't fight back?" "I'm maintaining standards." "No," Cash said. "You're being cruel. There's a difference." Eastwood took a step forward. "You don't know what it takes to—" "I know exactly what it takes," Cash interrupted. His voice was still quiet, but it cut through. "And I know the difference between pushing people and breaking them." That PA looked like he was going to cry. The makeup artist shut down. Your cameraman stopped asking questions because he's afraid of you. That's not leadership. That's bullying. This is how the business works. No, this is how you're choosing to work, and it's wrong. Eastwood's hands were clenched. His face was red. "Who do you think you are coming onto my set telling me—" I'm someone who's made the same mistakes, Cash said. I've been that person, the one so angry at himself he takes it out on everyone around him. The one who thinks if he's hard enough on people, they'll be perfect. But they won't be perfect, Clint. They'll just be scared. I don't need a lecture from, yes, you do. Cash didn't raise his voice, but the intensity increased. Because everyone else is too afraid to give you one. They need their jobs. They need the credit. They need you to like them. So they take it. They absorb your anger and they go home and they tell themselves it's worth it. But it's not worth it. Not for them. And not for you. Eastwood's jaw was working. He was breathing hard through his nose. You think you know me? You think because we've met a few times? I know what I saw today. I know that PA is 23 years old and this is probably his first real job, and you just made him feel like an idiot in front of 40 people for something he didn't do. I know that makeup artist has been in this business longer than both of us, and you dismissed her like she was nothing. I know your cameraman is one of the best in the industry, and you told him everything he did was wrong without telling him how to make it right. They need to be better. They need to be respected. Cash stepped closer, close enough that Eastwood had to either step back or hold his ground. Eastwood held his ground. You want people to do their best work? Make them feel valued. Make them feel safe to take risks. Make them feel like their contributions matter. Fear doesn't create excellence, Clint. It creates compliance. And compliance is the death of creativity. I'm trying to make a good film. At what cost? You think terrorizing your crew makes the work better? It doesn't. It makes them scared. Makes them do exactly what you tell them and nothing more, because they're too afraid to take any initiative. That's not excellence. That's fear. A crew member walked past carrying cables. He glanced at them and hurried faster. Both of them noticed. Neither acknowledged it. I'm holding them to a high standard, Eastwood said, but his voice had less certainty now. You're making them feel worthless. Cash's voice dropped even lower. These people make you look good. The cameraman, the makeup artist, that PA who didn't deserve to be humiliated. Without them, you're nothing, and you're treating them like they're disposable. Eastwood opened his mouth, closed it. His face was tight with anger, but something else was happening underneath, something that looked like recognition. You think I'm wrong? Cash asked. Look at your crew. Really look at them. See if they look like people doing their best work or people trying not to get yelled at. Eastwood didn't respond. His hands unclenched slowly. I've been where you are, Cash said, so focused on the work that I forgot about the people. Made them miserable because I was miserable. Thought if I was hard enough, they'd rise to meet me, but they didn't rise. They just broke. And you know what I learned? It doesn't make the work better. It just makes everyone suffer, including you. The silence stretched. Neither of them moved. Finally, Eastwood's shoulders dropped slightly. What do you want me to do? His voice was different, quieter. I want you to go back there and treat them like human beings. Not servants, not problems to solve, people. And if I don't? Cash looked at him steadily. Then you're not the man I thought you were. Eastwood flinched. It was small, but Cash saw it. You think I owe them an apology. I think you owe them respect. The apology's up to you. Eastwood looked at the ground. When he looked back up, something in his face had changed. All right. Cash nodded and started to walk away. John. Cash stopped, looked back. Thank you. Eastwood's voice was rough. For saying something. That's what friends do, Cash said. Cash walked back to the craft services area. Eastwood stood there alone for another minute. Then he walked back to the set. The crew saw him coming and straightened up, got ready. Eastwood stopped in the middle of them, looked around at all of them. The PA from earlier was trying to be invisible near the camera. Listen, Eastwood said. His voice carried across the set. I've been pushing too hard today, taking things out on you that aren't your fault. That's not fair. You're doing good work. I need to recognize that. So I'm recognizing it now. Thank you. Let's take a real break. 30 minutes. Come back when you're ready." Nobody moved. They just stood there staring at him like he'd changed languages. Then someone said okay and walked toward food, and everyone else followed. And suddenly there was conversation, and the tension was lifting. The PA walked past. Eastwood stopped him. The PA froze. "What's your name?" "Tom." "Tom, I'm sorry about earlier. I was frustrated and took it out on you. That wasn't right." Tom blinked. "Oh, it's okay, Mr. Eastwood." "No, it's not. But thank you. You're doing a good job." Tom walked away looking confused but relieved. Eastwood went to the makeup artist. "Susan." She turned. Her face was carefully blank. "You were right about the forehead. Can you fix it before we start?" "Sure, no problem." Eastwood nodded and walked away. Susan stood there for a moment, then went to find the actor. Cash was sitting on an equipment case when Eastwood found him. Eastwood sat next to him. Neither spoke for a while. "That was harder than I thought," Eastwood said. "It usually is. Not the apologizing, meaning it. You meant it. How do you know?" "Because you did it." They sat there watching the crew eat and talk and laugh. The difference was visible. The way people moved, the way they talked. "I get so focused I forget they're people," Eastwood said. "Just see them as parts of the machine." "I know. How do you remember?" "I don't always, but people call me on it. June, my band, and I try to listen." Eastwood was quiet. "I don't have anyone who calls me on it." "You do now," Cash said, "if you want." "I want." They sat until the break was over. Then Eastwood went back to work. The afternoon was different. When the cameraman suggested a different angle, Eastwood listened, considered it, asked questions. They tried it both ways. The cameraman's suggestion was better. Eastwood said so out loud. When an actor asked about motivation for a line, Eastwood didn't make him feel stupid for asking. He talked it through, explained his thinking, asked the actor what he thought. The actor offered an idea. Eastwood incorporated it. The take was better. When the PA brought coffee, Eastwood said thank you and asked his name again, Tom. Eastwood repeated it, said he'd remember this time. Tom smiled for the first time all day. The makeup artist approached about the actor's forehead. Eastwood listened to her suggestion, agreed, thanked her for catching it. She looked surprised, then pleased. By 3 o'clock, the whole energy had shifted. People were talking between takes, offering ideas, making jokes. The cameraman suggested a dolly shot they hadn't planned. Eastwood thought about it, said, "Let's try it." It added 20 minutes to the schedule, but it was worth it. The shot was beautiful. An extra asked a question about blocking. Eastwood answered patiently, showed him the movement. The extra got it right. Eastwood told him good job. The extra stood a little straighter. The crew noticed. By end of day, people were moving differently. There was energy, creativity. People weren't just following orders. They were collaborating, contributing, doing their best work because they felt safe enough to take risks. Cash watched it all from the equipment case, saw the transformation, saw Eastwood making different choices, saw the crew responding. It wasn't perfect. Old habits don't die in an afternoon, but it was different, noticeably different. Cash left before wrap. Eastwood walked him to his car. "Thanks for coming. Thanks for listening." "Was I really that bad?" Cash looked at him. "Yeah." Eastwood nodded. "I'm glad you said something." "Me too." Cash drove away. Eastwood stood there watching, then went back to finish. 20 years later, Eastwood was asked in an interview when his directing approach changed. He thought for a long time. "There was a day in the 70s, he said. Johnny Cash came to my set. I was being hard on people, too hard. He pulled me aside and told me I was treating my crew like dirt. I didn't want to hear it, but he was right." "What made you listen?" "Because he'd earned the right to say it. He wasn't lecturing me from some moral high ground. He was telling me as someone who'd been there, who'd made the same mistakes, and because he cared enough to risk our friendship to tell me the truth." "Did it change how you worked?" "It changed everything. Not overnight, but that day was the turning point. I started seeing my crew as collaborators instead of employees. started understanding that you can demand excellence while still treating people with dignity, that fear and respect aren't the same thing, that the best work comes from people who feel valued, not people who feel afraid. Do you still think about that day? Eastwood nodded. All the time. Because it could have gone differently. I could have told Johnny to mind his own business, could have ignored what he said, could have kept being the same person, but I didn't, and that changed my career, changed my relationships, changed the kind of films I made, all because one friend cared enough to say something. The interviewer asked about Cash. Eastwood's expression softened. Johnny was the kind of friend who told you what you needed to hear, not what you wanted to hear. That's rare. Most people either don't care enough or don't have the courage. Johnny had both. He saw me at my worst, and instead of walking away or gossiping about it later, he pulled me aside and gave me a chance to be better. That's real friendship. The crew from that day mostly didn't know what happened. They knew something changed, knew Eastwood was different after lunch. A few saw Cash and Eastwood talking by the trucks, but they were too far to hear. The makeup artist worked with Eastwood 3 more times over the next decade. Each time she told people it was a good experience, professional, collaborative. He listened to her suggestions, valued her expertise. She never knew why that first day had started so badly and then shifted, just knew that by the afternoon, everything was different. Tom, the PA, stayed in the industry, worked his way up to first assistant director. 15 years later, he was hired on an Eastwood film. When he walked onto set, Eastwood recognized him, remembered his name. Tom had never forgotten that day. The humiliation of the morning, the shock of the apology, the way Eastwood had learned his name and used it. Tom tried to treat his own crews the same way, with respect, with dignity, even when things went wrong. They just knew the feeling shifted, and it stayed shifted. That's what happened when Johnny Cash walked onto Clint Eastwood's set. 2 people having a hard conversation, one speaking truth, one listening, and everything changing because of it.